Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Iraj News. Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is the Iraj News analyst, Emmanuel Efeni. Good morning, great to see you.
Good morning, Adesuwa.
Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good to see you.
Yes, I was checking the list of vegetables I have in my garden when Professor Iwu was talking.
No, Professor Iwu did not say you should just go and start taking any vegetable.
Guava leaf,
because
yes.
some vegetables can be poisonous.
No, guava leaf, yes. Bitter leaf, yes.
Oh, okay.
Lemongrass, yes.
Oh, you were
leaf,
taking
yes.
notes. Okay.
I have all that in my garden.
Ah,
so I'm on the right path.
Good for you.
Let's go to the newspapers. Now, these day newspapers, the lead story, minimum wage dispute deepens as Labour rejects governor's 22,500 naira offer. While the Punch newspaper puts it this way, minimum wage, we can only pay 22,500 naira, governor tells workers. NLC TUC members protest nationwide. While The Guardian, Nigeria's The Guardian, simply puts it this way, pay 30,000 naira or lose 2019 polls. Labour warns government. If all the governments refuse to pay, then you will vote all of them out. That's what they are saying. How possible is that? Then the Daily Sun, minimum wage on 30,000 will stand. Labour. It reminds me of June 12. On June 12 we stand. On 30,000 we stand, Labour. Now, let's say, then the Nation newspaper, wage showdown likely as governors offer 22,500. Now, I think what is wrong in all this, the process. Now, there was a tripartite negotiation, Labour, government, private sector, and they agreed on 30,000.
That's what Labour is claiming.
Yes. Now, for governors to meet and come up with a figure, or the federal government economic team coming up with a figure, seem a wrong procedure. Yeah, because according to Labour...
The reason for that is that Labour was not part of this meeting.
No, Labour is saying,
meeting.
look, we cannot be part of this meeting because we have concluded the tripartite. The next step is for the government, the federal government in this case, to take a bill to the National Assembly where you will still have public hearing, where the governors can still come and make their presentation about capacity to pay, willingness to pay versus capacity to pay, where the federal government can still make inputs, but to be holding separate meetings at the level of the economic team and saying this is what is feasible, or the governors talking about what is politically correct, or bringing in the discussion about true federalism or not, these are beside the point.
Do you see some states paying, some viable states paying the 30,000 naira minimum wage?
Well, there are states that can pay. Like you mentioned, Edo State, they are saying they can pay. Lagos State should be able to pay with an IGR of around 30 billion naira a month. Lagos State will not be part of the discussion not to pay. And there are states, yes, perhaps that's where you're talking about true federalism. Because the cost of living in Lagos is not the same as the cost of living in Guzo, the capital of Zamfara State, or Benin City, the capital of Edo State. Perhaps, having dodged the issue of true federalism, it is now haunting us at the level of minimum wage. Now, the other story that we have in this day, the window story, South-South governors meet president over subsidy effects on derivation. Now, what has been going on? Because this government said that it has removed subsidy. I'm sure we remember that very well.
No, but the same government is paying subsidy.
No,
different
we are putting it in historical
part
context.
of its revenue is deployed to the payment of subsidy.
But what
this import 60 million liters.
Yes, so what these governors are saying that a situation where NMPC on its own just removes an amount of money use it to import fuel, call it under recovery instead of subsidy.
No, we're the ones who say, you know, this is a case of under recovery.
Yes, but they have not called it anything. But they are not calling it subsidy. And now the governors are saying, look, according to the laws of this land, the Constitution, we are entitled to 13% derivation revenue based on the amount coming from the sales of crude.
Accruable revenue.
Yes. So you cannot take some money, claim you have used it for subsidy, then you not declare the rest. That is the problem. And the governors have gone to see the president to tell him that, look, we are not accepting this. We may be heading to the Supreme Court to resolve this.
Yeah, we discussed this matter in parenthesis yesterday when the issue was brought up by NATI, the report from NATI. There is a case of under recovery. The IOC is not making proper remittances. The NNPC, tampering with foreign exchange revenue, contrary to the regulation that every revenue must go direct to the
Federation account.
TSA, the single treasury account. But however, I mean, these are serious issues that we have to worry about, because oftentimes, even when the law says one thing, the government of the day resorts to arbitrariness. I don't know whether the issue was discussed at our meeting. There's also the unresolved matter of the Supreme Court judgment with regard to Section 16 of the Deep Offshore Onshore Production Sharing Contracts Act,
yes,
where, you know, the Supreme Court ruled affirmatively that when the benchmark for crude oil is beyond $20, as in the law, then, you know, government should take a second look at it to make sure that the littoral states get their due. I thought that was part of that meeting.
No, there's nothing.
I think that, you know, it's something that has to be negotiated so that the, oil-bearing states do not feel continuously cheated.
If the Supreme Court had ruled, that is the law. There's nothing to discuss.
The state government said they were
just go ahead and implement.
They were going to work out the terms.
Yes.
You know, because there will be, I guess, money that has to be paid. And the figures have to be properly worked out between the states and the federal government.
Okay.
And we raised concern then whether the federal government will respect the Supreme Court ruling, as we have seen.
Yes.
We were saying that this government has a tendency to cherry pick in terms of how and when and, where it respects the rule of law.
Yeah. Maybe just before we move to foreign papers outside the shores of Nigeria, Vanguard, police car burned in Shite protest, 400 arrested. The Shite protest still on. And what was different yesterday, not the soldiers were called in this time. The police arrested 400 persons. Perhaps if the soldiers were the one in charge, some of those 400...
more casualties.
No, they would have been counted bodies among those 400. Yes, but good thing the police did what they had to do. Arrested persons they felt were not... they were protesting violently. And yes, that is how it should be. If they want to take them to court, they should be taken to court. But the bigger issue is that these people are likely to continue their protest as long as their leader is in custody without trial, without the government obeying the court ruling that granted him reprieve, that he should.
And his wife.
Yes, and his wife. So as long as they are in custody, these guys, the Shiites and their beliefs.
Yeah, I pointed out earlier that there's also an international context to this. That all of this falls within the season of the 40 days mourning period of the death of the grandson, Hussein, the second caliph, of the Prophet, and that there are international implications, and that the Nigerian government and the security agencies and intelligence agencies should see this in terms of the larger picture of terror, of reprisals, given that the Shiites, are part of the whole of that crisis global crisis in the Middle East.
The quicker, the better for us. Those who live in Abuja, they have to go about their normal businesses.
The pains of the disruption of their businesses.
Exactly.
And if you have a major crisis in Abuja ahead of the elections, or even during the elections, then of course there could be, greater, far-reaching
implications. Yes.
I'm sure the government is watching. You observe that no comment from the presidency.
Exactly.
Well, let's hope they are planning a strategy to bring it to
I said it's not about comments. It's about securing Nigeria.
Yes.
And making sure that human rights are respected.
Yes.
What do we have on the international scene quickly?
The UK, Brexit. Now, the Guardian UK is reporting that crashing out of EU will trigger recession. That is according to the warning from rating agency S&P.
Standard and Poor's.
Standard and Poor's. They're saying if they are not able to get a deal and they crash out, despite the fact that Theresa May is saying 95% agreement already reached. But the remaining 5% happen to be crucial, which includes the Northern Ireland border. And now, if they are able to come up with an agreement and the crash out of EU, unemployment will go up. Inflation will spike. Prices of property in London and elsewhere will dip. And
free movement will be affected.
Yes.
Farmers will be affected.
Yes. In fact,
even something as simple as the cost of cheese,
yes,
will be affected.
Yes.
And households will spend more, will bear more costs, so, about £2,500, almost on a monthly basis.
The economy is likely to go into recession, and that is a warning from that rating agency. But the Times of London reports this story. Fears over Brexit lead to rush for Irish passports. Now, after Brexit, the ability to walk anywhere in Europe will be denied the average British citizen.
Even food supply.
Yes. Now, those whose parents or grandparents of Irish origin are entitled to Irish passports. So a number of UK citizens are cashing in on that. And 10% of British citizens outside Northern Ireland have this connection, which they're trying to exploit, so that after Brexit, they can still move around, walk anywhere in Europe as Irish citizens. So that is an escape route for a few. But for the rest of British people, British citizens, of course, they will have to comply with the new regulations. Now, if we have some time.
Very, very quickly.
Okay, let's just take the New York Times.
Great.
Where Trump's visit divides mourning victims of hate. Protest and gratitude greet the president as he honors 11 killed in Pittsburgh. So that Trump always divisive, as he has been since he assumed his presidency. Remember what happened in Virginia. His comments created more division. Now his visit to a city that is mourning,
Pittsburgh.
Yes, Pittsburgh, is now also divided along the line because some blame him for the growth of hate speech in America. Yes,
And they talked about unity. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Efeni. Always a delight to have you every morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's time now for a short break.